Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Today we'll be continuing our Star Wars Tactics series by going on to the first battle of the Clone Wars. A lot of people consider Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, as the worst movie of the prequel trilogy. It was poorly paced and the dialogue was extremely awkward in some places, and there was just too much visual effects. But as a 13-year-old watching Attack of the Clones in the movie theater for the first time, it was amazing. I thought the clone troopers were the coolest things in the world. After the movie came out and I played the video game and read all the books, it still remains one of my favorite series of all time. But once I began to understand more about what it was like being a clone trooper, I realized how horrible the Battles of Geonosis was. After following Jango Fett to Geonosis, Obi-Wan Kenobi was captured by the Separatists. But before he was captured, he was able to send a report on the droid foundries and growing armies of the Separatist Alliance to the Republic. When this information spread to the Senate, Chancellor Palpatine was granted emergency powers and sent the Grand Army of the Republic to Geonosis. One of the side objectives was to save Obi-Wan Kenobi along with Senator Amidala and Anakin Skywalker from execution. The Jedi sent a 212-member assault team to rescue them, but their tactics just weren't great. Their initial idea is to arrest Count Dooku and force the Separatists into surrendering. But usually when you're arresting someone, you want to be in a position of power. Ideally, your perpetrator is handcuffed and you have your boot on the back of his head. Count Dooku was anything but that. His troops greatly outnumbered the small Jedi assault team, making the whole idea kind of ridiculous. And this is at the root of the problem. The Jedi see themselves as peacekeepers, not soldiers. And sending peacekeepers into a war zone to extract prisoners isn't a great idea. Jedi are bound by extremely strict rules of engagement, and aren't able to function with extreme prejudice. If you look at the PJs or other special units trained specifically for extraction missions, they rely on good intelligence, deception, stealth, and speed. None of these things were carried out during the Jedi rescue. First, there's the idiotic timing where the Jedi wait for Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme to be surrounded with droidekas before emerging from the shadows. I know, it's dramatic, but a better plan would have been to extract the prisoners while they were still locked up. You know, before they were being paraded in front of tens of thousands of spectators. A small force like the Jedi assault team can only survive if they remain undetected. And if they are detected, they need to quickly withdraw and break contact with the enemy and find a way out of there. The last place where they want to be bogged down is in a giant open space where the enemy's numbers can be used to its full potential. Think about the Battle of Thermopylae. It worked because the Spartans were able to negate the Persians' numerical advantage by squeezing them into a narrow pass. The second that stupid hunchback betrayed them and the Persians surrounded them, it was over. But of course, the Jedi for some reason decided to hold their ground in the middle of the arena and kill as many droids as possible, leading to many unnecessary casualties. The only thing they do manage to get right is call in the clone dropships at the end of the battle and hightail it out of there. This should have been the plan all along. Send in a company of clone troopers with Jedi aboard some dropships with starfighter cover. Suppress all the anti-air installations, pick up the prisoners, and get out of there. Forget capturing Dooku, just shoot him. The Jedi weren't well coordinated, their plan wasn't well thought out. They didn't have a clear command structure, and they aren't used to fighting in a large force, let alone giving or taking orders. And because of that, their victory was a Pyrrhic one. 179 of the 212 Jedi sent on the rescue mission die. And who did the Separatists lose? Jango Fett and a few hundred droids. But what happens next is even worse. The Jedi are assigned leadership roles in the Grand Army for no other reason than because they are Jedi. This isn't merit-based or training-based, and once again, the Jedi find themselves way in over their heads. Just imagine if the US military got rid of their command structure and replaced it with Shaolin monks simply because they were able to easily defeat people in one-on-one fighting. The Jedi received no military training. Most of them had just recently found out the clone army even existed, so they were unfamiliar with the clones' equipment and their capabilities. So what happens when you place them in command? This, a suicidal frontal attack against heavily armed positions. Now I understand why the battle droids are deployed in parade formation. They're cheap and quick to manufacture and have limited processing power. But clones are completely different. Sure, they're more obedient than regular humans, but they're living, breathing, thinking, and most importantly feeling individuals just like all the rest of us. And it takes 9 years to make them. The Grand Army just couldn't afford to trade casualties with the Separatists. Also, Jedi throughout the Clone Wars, like Anakin, forgot that the soldiers they were leading were just ordinary people without force powers. And countless clones died trying to follow their crazy Jedi General's antics. A capable leader would have looked at the Battle of Geonosis and never exposed their troops to such unnecessary danger. The goal was to destroy the Separatists and prevent them from escaping. There was no rush for victory. The JAR had air superiority. The Separatists weren't going anywhere. A better tactic would have been to order the clone troopers to dig in and protect their artillery emplacements. Or if they really needed to advance, use mechanized transport like clone turbo tanks or dropships. And if you really have to do a human wave assault, at least use a smokescreen. The disastrous frontal attack at Geonosis would set the tone for the rest of the war. The battle was a harsh awakening for many of the clones. They now realized how expendable they were, and how incompetent their leaders were. In the second Battle of Geonosis, the Jedi once again repeat their same mistakes and suffer heavy casualties. It came to no surprise by the time of Order 66, many clone troopers were not hesitant about shooting their Jedi Generals. The chip in their heads probably wasn't even necessary in most cases. In the end, the mistakes made by the Jedi at the Battle of Geonosis wasn't completely their faults. They were ill-equipped to handle the task, and at the time, besides a few judicials, there were no real leaders ready to step in and command the GAR. This was literally an army that was formed overnight. And it was all a part of Palpatine's brilliant plan. He was able to get rid of tons of Jedi and at the same time corrupt them by exposing them to the horrors of warfare. Palpatine knew that the rigors of war wasn't compatible with the Jedi philosophy. Palpatine had access to Darth Plagueis' archives, and he probably heard of Jedi such as Revan and Shere Khan. So at least in this episode, the terrible tactics had a purpose. The real objective was achieved by the Puppet Master. Bravo, Palpatine. Bravo. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of this series. And a special thanks to all you Patreon supporters out there. If you guys were facing your execution, I wouldn't wait until the last minute to rescue you. Thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.